Hi there, Elevated Planet community. This is John Drew here from Elevated Planet, and here I am today with Louise Hatch. Hi there, Louise. How are you doing?
Hi there, John. Lovely to see you. Thank you for the invite today.
Well, my pleasure. I'm grateful for you putting aside the time. Louise has a piece of written work that we are going to be putting onto Elevated Planet, and I love it. I've got to say, Louise, I really am impressed by the writing. I feel it really does dovetail nicely with like an Elevated Planet message as well. And I got curious really as to understanding a little bit more about the writer, the person behind it, and the experiences and that have got you to this point here where, I've got, this is going to be going out, but it's
amazing.
beautiful.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. No, I do. I love it. And I was, reading through it again, and I said to Louise before we spoke a few days ago, and I was saying, as I'm reading through it, I was like the Churchill nodding dog. Every time I get to the end of a paragraph, oh yeah, so yeah. And just like everything, just like I had to stop and read it and think about it. But every time I did, I go, oh yeah. It's a great piece of work, and I would imagine, So this is part of a book, correct?
It is. Well, I think it is, John. This has all come about in ways that writing sometimes does, in terms of we sit down, we do something, we're not quite sure what we're doing, and then we put it aside for a while and then come back to it. And this is very much that type of experience. And I think it is. It's actually, as we've been chatting over the last couple of weeks and just pulling things together for this, I've noticed that actually throughout there is a thread that runs, and I do now think it definitely could be a book. There's probably about 6 or 7 chapters already. Throughout time I've been putting things together, but it's almost like the theme is there now and the thread's getting stronger. So I'm kind of being guided by that, really. So rather than going, right, I'm going to sit down and write it down, like, okay, and I'm almost like it's like a patchwork. I've written quite a lot of the little patches, and now it's about how do I weave this all together. So that's where I'm at, really. So yes, I do think it's a bigger piece, definitely.
It is interesting, isn't it? Because when we had this discussion, when we had a chat the other day, one of the things that you said, and it actually comes through in the writing as well, it's about waiting for the moment when the time is right.
Yeah, and trusting that. It's almost like I've been on some brilliant writing retreats and courses, and it's part of that theme, but also there's a balance, I think, between allowing things to come, but also taking responsibility for being present enough and practiced enough, if you like, for that space to be there. So it's a little bit of both, really. And I think that is when it all comes. That's the alignment thing, isn't it? It's like you can't suddenly get an idea, and that's the night you write it down, and then someone has a chat to you the next day about the exact thing you've just written. It's all those magical things, those elements, really. But I do believe, I've often said, and I know you and I have discussed this about the books that we have within us, and I'm like you, I'm trusting that maybe there's a timing element, divine timing element that comes into play very much, and I believe that's the case with this, to be honest. This is a fortuitous meeting through set of coincidences that we came to meet, and it's my first piece I've sent out that is really my soul writing, if you like. It's something I've always done slightly in the background. I've done other pieces, and I've sort of presented it to you, took a deep breath, and here we are. So
it's great stuff, and as you say, it's kind of like everything in life appears so random. The fact we're having this conversation now is as a result of the fact that you were in Glastonbury and you and Kate bumped into Faye Vale.
That's right.
Walking, and Elevated Planet got thrown in there as a mention, and obviously we're doing a lot of work with Faye as well. And then we started off like a communication exchange, and I said to you a few months ago, anytime you feel that you've got something that you want to contribute to, because this is a community kind of forum, we'd love it, we'd welcome it. I know we put some Kate's music on. I'm delighted, and the quality of the work is really, I'm not going to give too much away because I want people to read it, because we're going to post it.
Don't do any spoilers, John.
No, spoiler alert. But it is in the writing. To me, it is inspired. It's the kind of thing I look at that, and as I said before, it's like whenever I do any creation of writing and things like that, the times when you know you're in that flow state and it just comes through you and it's just like transformed. And I know the same has been said about Faye Vale as well. You know, when she
Yeah,
does her art, that is purely channeled, you know, and
yeah,
that
absolutely.
she knows that, and she just connects and she allows it to come through her. And
Yeah,
I think that, you know, you have to take responsibility to be in it, to get into that flow state in the first instance. But, you know, there's a lot of musicians out there who, you know,
absolutely.
created so much fantastic music over the decades and centuries, effectively by being that channel, but
Yeah,
also needing the skill set that went with it as well. You know, you can't just
yeah,
say, okay, right, I'm gonna create a new rock album and just say, okay,
yeah.
right, you know, you got
That,
to have done the legwork.
yeah, it does. It does land in your lap, but you've also got to do the work to
Mm.
take it into the world, haven't you? That's the key. That's the bit. That's the bit that we're responsible for, really. It's like
Yes.
if we're given these gifts, it's almost like they're not really meant just to be hidden away. At
No.
some point, they need to be out there. I think it's like to be shared. I think that's
Yes.
really important, really important, and we have to be brave to do that. I
It's
think.
true. Yeah. And again, that comes through in this particular piece as well. You know, in mention of like extending beyond comfort zones,
Absolutely. Yeah,
broadening
because
it
I
out.
think as well, yeah, it's that kind of we're into what we're into. We're on quite spiritual paths. Spiritual light is very much part of myself, and I know you, and all the people that hopefully are reading this and listening to this. And it's sometimes in the past, it's not been okay to be that way. Very
Right.
much so, and it's almost in our bones. It's like, oh, I'm stepping out beyond this now. But I think the time has most definitely come
Yeah.
for this planet, and as you say, to elevate the planet. So no more slacking.
Our time has come.
Time has
Divine
come. Yeah,
timing.
definitely.
But I think that there's a good point to that as well, which is that actually this can be fun as well.
Yeah.
I know I believe we're going to go through a time of enormous change. I think things are changing, and I think that those who kind of, you know, it's shining a light. It's trying to shine a light, and everybody gets a choice about whether this is for them or not. There's never any pressure. But yeah, I think that this kind of work here that we have in terms of the wild wisdom piece that you've done, it kind of helps to shine a light. It really does.
Great, thank you, John. Yeah, I hope so, and I hope it's, and also we shine our light in many different ways. It doesn't have to be big statements. It doesn't have to be world changing. It's in our everyday lives, all the little things we do in our everyday lives to bring that through and to be inspired by others and hopefully help others if they, plant seeds, all those things.
Right.
Just do it in the way that you live your life as well. I think that's so important. You never know who you're going to talk to next, do you?
You never do. You never do. But it's one of the things that makes life exciting. And I think the other thing is that you can only ever control yourself, right? This is you understand, know thyself, as they say, right? Okay, it's
Yeah,
understanding yourself and trying to be the best version of you that you can be, and where you follow your inspiration. But really, it's not trying to change other people, because that's not our responsibility, right?
definitely not. Definitely not. No, and there's there's sort of universal laws in a sense, free will, universe, all of that, and we've all come to things in our own time.
Correct.
We know when we're feeling forced or something's not right, and that's about timing. So we have to just really be the same with others. I think it's like there'll be moments for people, and we can encourage that. And I think that's okay. I think we just got to all find our own way with it, really. Like-minded connections are important, though, I think, in anything that we do. The conversations we're having today, I think that just reinforces, okay, we're on track, we're on path, it's okay. Because I think I've written in the piece about sometimes when we step out and we're doing things, it's not a loneliness as such, but it's almost like we go through quite a phase of, like, I don't know, recalibrating, and we can sometimes feel a little bit alone with it. And
Yes.
it's trusting that as well.
Yes.
Because perhaps that's where we're realigning our energies, and then we find our tribe again. And that kind of does fortify us in a way to, like, okay, well, I can be as strong within in my own convictions and live the way I believe is right for me, that I will attract the same. So I think that, but there can be a period where that's transitional, which can sometimes make you go a bit wobbly, I think. So
Totally. And it is, as you say, it's not always easy, but just to trust that this is the path. to have the faith, keep the faith, and just keep following it. Because, you know, if really, you know, to me, it's about following your bliss, right? Whatever it is that lights you up is what you're supposed to be doing. And it's not always going to be a constant throughout life, because things change.
Yeah.
And, you know, one door closes, another one opens, and, you know, you move into something different. But as you say, there's a scary aspect to that as well, to some degree, because we are creating new comfort zones in time. But it's, you know, we're doing some pioneering stuff along the way where it's completely new territory.
Yeah. There isn't really a map. We're kind of creating it with each step that we take, each step we're guided by. And that, you know, I don't know about you, John, I quite like to know where I'm going in life.
Right.
And what I've learned, as I put in the piece, what I've learned is just turn up, tune in, and see what happens.
Yes.
So that's quite a stretch for me sometimes.
Yeah.
Because the rest of my life is quite organized. So this is almost, that is the wildness, that it's almost like tapping into that and allowing it to be and going with it.
Yes.
You have to let go of those reins a little bit, you know.
I think to, you know, we all love comfort zones, we all love routines, because you don't have to think too hard. You know you're going to do it, you're doing it because you enjoy it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes you do have to take the pioneering spirit, you know, the wild, the wilder path, and check out where it's going to lead you. You know, and sometimes you might fall flat on your face and realize, well, actually, I have learned something. I've learned that's not the path. But,
yeah, won't be doing that again. Yeah.
but you have learned something along the way. But yeah, just like being a bit braver and stepping outside and just going with it. But, you know, I mean, you've been being a creative has been a big part of your life, correct?
Correct. Yes. Ever since I can remember, really. Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Do you want to give us a little bit of background on that journey?
Yeah, I mean, as a young child, my mum was very influential. She and still is a very spiritual lady. You know, I used to call her Witchy Ma, because she was really tuned in. And we'd do things when I was younger. My generation was, we'd go to yogas when I was really, really young. I mean, we were like we were doing things like that before people would even really heard of it. So that was part of my life. And I'd always sung. I was a singer ever since I can remember. From being maybe 4 years old, I was involved in sort of church singing, if you like. So that was part of it. I'm trying to think when the writing came in quite young. I remember being at my grandma's house, and they had the posh note paper, and I got a pen, and I was literally looping on this piece of paper, thinking it was writing. I must be really, really young, and getting told off because I'd wasted reams of paper. But there you go. And thinking, oh, something too, I don't know, just that connecting point, pen on paper. And then gradually it became words, and gradually it became, and I was always into reading. As a young child, I was quite advanced in my reading. So it's always been there. And throughout my life, I guess it's kind of waxed and waned depending on what I'm doing, you know, depending on life and the other things that take hold, really. But yeah, and at school, I was always the creative one. I was far more into, you know, music, drama, English, writing. The other side of things, not so much to my teacher's dismay. But there you go. But that's always been what I was about, really. And again, about fitting in, I didn't really fit in. I didn't fit in at all. I desperately wanted to. So I spent most of my life trying to fit in, you know, as we do. And then realised, actually, Lou, you're never going to. So you might as well just be who you are, really. But that comes with a bit more maturity and a bit more understanding, I think. So, you know, it's kind of, but the creativity has run through everything, really.
Still does. And it's and that right brain side of things, obviously is a dominant feature. And I personally think that from a spiritual perspective, the main reason that there are a lot more women who are deeply spiritual or mediumistic or, you know, creators and the likes, I think is because it's more of a right brain thing. Us fellas tend to be more left brain.
Okay.
Well, you know, that's logic, and it's numbers, and it's all that kind of stuff. And I lived in that world for many decades. And so it was a bigger stretch for me to go from left to balancing things out a little bit more.
Yeah.
And by balancing things out allows you to sort of like look at life differently. And I was kind of forced out of it. you know, because I just had this reading which just blew my mind, and I realized that my version of life was wrong. You know, there was something more than just being born and then you die. You know, there's something way beyond that.
A bit more to it. Yeah.
But it took that to get me out of my left brain kind of dominated world. And I've still got plenty of friends, in fact, plenty of people on the distribution list who are very left brain, because that was their entire career, left brain kind of thing. And, you know, they're the good people. You know, they're not, it's not that they're out of balance or anything, but at the same time, I know it's a real struggle for them to cross the threshold to kind of give a lot of credence onto the, you know, the otherworldly stuff that goes on beyond what you can see, feel, touch, and all the rest of it. But yeah, it's interesting. So then you got into, you did, the writing thing was coming naturally to you, the music side of things as well, right? So
Music,
that's expanded.
Music, again, singing has always been part of my life, really, from sort of church years, Salvation Army, actually, the years, and then through to school choirs, various things throughout, and then becoming a full-time singer when I was 17. I joined my first band, and, you know, it was always part of my life, huge part of my life for many years, bands, songwriting, different things. And again, it kind of led me to brilliant experiences. I've done so many amazing things, met so many fantastic musicians. I'm very blessed, including Kate Giaconello, we've mentioned previously, who, as well as being the photographer that's in the article, she's a fantastic composer. So I was very blessed to be part of that as well. And then about 14 years ago, this is a relevant part of what's happened in my life, I started to have tinnitus, the ringing in my ears, a very sudden onset, like instant, started one day, didn't disappear. Followed through, got some diagnosis, and it turns out I have a congenital hearing loss, which was probably always there in some shape or form, but decided to present itself 14 years ago. And with that brought the tinnitus. So life changed. After finishing one of my projects, a New Age album, I decided to step back from music. I was finding it way too stressful. I didn't want to do anything to my hearing that hadn't, you know, I didn't want to make things worse. It was a strange time. So I stepped back, and that left a massive void, which I struggled with for quite some time. Something's been so much part of your life, it's weird. And gradually, through support and just doing some, you know, reviewing of life, I got back into writing, because although it's a kind of silent, solitary thing, I actually felt really calm while I was doing it, and I didn't notice the tinnitus. My hearing was quite, you know, okay with it all. So that's how I got back into writing. And then I started to do courses and joined groups. And it was almost like, as you say, John, we're bombing along on this path. And suddenly something goes, you know, and we're like, hang on. And that moment of that turning point can be quite traumatic sometimes, not by any means kind of, you know, diminishing that for people, because it can be. And gradually, if we work it through, I actually wrote a piece about it. It's like hidden gifts and silver linings, because from that has come so many more things I never would have experienced or even dabbled with, to be honest. And it's probably led me to probably where we're chatting today. So, yeah, the writing became a solace, actually, somewhere I could go just to kind of connect in, almost download some thoughts, and then other things started coming through. I started to get quite powerful writing coming through. It was almost like that we've got your attention now, so please write this down.
It's true. It's kind of, you know, like when I think back, in my experience, absolutely, those moments that change your life, which can kind of take you in an area where you really, there is no comfort zone anymore. And you don't quite know how things are going to unfold, and you have to just keep going and taking a leap of faith and just hope, fingers crossed, but keeping the faith. But I think that these things definitely happen for a reason. And there are other examples within Elevated Planet, within the readers and healers, where things have happened to people. You would not choose it for yourself. You wouldn't actually write it into the script of your life to say, okay, at this point, I don't know, can I have some tinnitus, please? Can I have something that destroys my music career for now? And then I'm going to do something. You don't, you know, but it's there for a reason, because it distracts you to where you ultimately should be next.
Yeah, because otherwise I think we do bob along a little bit, don't we? We know it's like you say, it's the comfort zone thing, and it's also what we know. And why would we think outside that box if it's always been that way? So yeah, it kind of forces us to kind of look deeper and reassess. And I think that was probably one of my first major examples of wild wisdom. That moment where everything seemed so out of control. Absolutely, my life was just spiraling, and yet somewhere within it there was this, I don't know, there was this kind of power. You can't, it's not tangible thing, is it? It's a feeling. But that I always remember thinking deep down, it's okay, it will be okay. But yeah, that was the first time it was like that kind of extremes of like out of control, and yet hang on, there's something here. What is that? You know.
And feelings and emotions are way more important as a guidepost than we than we typically give credit for in our westernized kind of existence. You know, they're always regarded as a bit of a luxury, but this is what you're supposed to be doing over here. And you know, you mentioned about when you're at school, and the fact is you had the creative side of things, which was all you. That was it. That was what you're there for. And yet you still got to do your maths. You've still got to do your geometry. You still got to do your sciences. And the reality is that each of us has strengths and weaknesses, right? Now, we have this thing whereby we say, okay, you're not very good at this. You'd better focus on it, right? And that's kind of the way.
Improve yourself.
We're paddling upstream all the time. Right, that's how we get told in life. You know, don't go with the flow. Paddle upstream. You know, fight it. Whereas in reality, what you're supposed to do is turn your canoe downstream and just go with the flow, because this is your life. This is who you are supposed to be. The education system doesn't allow for that. I mean, if you turn to your teachers and say, well, actually, no, I'm turning my canoe around, I'm going with the flow. I'm not going to do any of that sciences nonsense. I don't like it. I'm not very good at it, but I'm really good at this. And so, oh, okay, Louise, that's all right.
I bet that would have got
the
that
curriculum
really well.
for you.
One of my I remember my mom showed it to me recently, a piece that, you know, you get reports at school, and one of the teachers written, Louise is far too distracted by frills and furbelows. What does that even mean? But anyway, I thought, thank goodness.
I was always easily distracted, was always one on my list all the time. So I was too much of a daydreamer. But again, daydreaming has its own kind of virtues as well. And I think you kind of come back full circle now. Now I'm learning how to daydream again, because that's where the new creations are coming from.
Exactly.
So can I ask you about something else that, when I first saw your name, and for you and Kate, when Faye first made that introduction, and I was checking through on your website for dragonfly inspiration, dragonfly lifestyle, sorry. And I had a look at the website, and I look at the sort of stuff that you're curating, and that's really nice stuff. How did that come to be?
Well, again, it was kind of, I've always been into retail and fashion. That's been part of, you know, I've always had these kind of two main passions, which is spirituality and fashion. Never thought of how can I put these together. So they're always very much separate parts of my life. And I had my friend Jules, actually, and we were chatting. We'd worked together in retail, said one day, wouldn't it be nice if we could do our own thing? It was kind of that kind of conversation. And again, through writing, I went on a writer's retreat to Devon about 7.5 years ago now. And part of that retreat, I was sitting there one day and I just started to put together a business plan, as you do. And it was for Dragonfly, although it wasn't called that at the time. And it was about a fusion of the two passions and how we'd make it unique and how we could do fashion. So basically for me, it was about bringing spirituality into the everyday. So you're not becoming a new age center or a kind of hippie shop. You're kind of almost doing it in mainstream. So people are coming in to buy maybe a dress or a scarf or as a gift for someone, and they go, oh, and there's some tarot decks over here, and there's some, you know, so it's almost like they can explore in almost a safe space, because they may not ever have walked into a new age place, because people get nervous. People, you know, it's like they're not quite sure what they're walking into. So that was a kind of basis of the dream, about celebrating us all in body, mind, and spirit, really. I wanted to combine everything. So we put this business plan together, and I presented it to our landlords in Greenwich, where we were, thinking, oh, they'll never look at this. And they came back and went, we love it. Do you want to shop?
Oh, wow.
And we both went, ah! So, yeah. And then it kind of, and all the reasons we gave for not doing it, every single one was pushed aside. Like the building we were looking at, we go, oh no, the shop front's not right, we can't do that. They went, no, we're changing the shop front. Okay, no, we can't use that excuse. Okay, well, there's some bollards. No, they're going. Okay, everything we said was like, no problem, we'll change it, don't worry. And in the end, we took it on. So there we go. And Dragonfly was a name that actually Jules came up with because she liked the name. And then we looked into the kind of symbology of it, as you know, various different schools of thought on that. And then when we built our website, the guy that was building it said, tell me about Dragonfly. And as we described it, he goes, oh, it sounds like a lifestyle. So it became Dragonfly Lifestyle, which it fits basically. And been doing, it's 7 years now. 7 years it's been going. So, and very blessed throughout pandemics and everything. Thank you, everybody. So, and I've signed up to stay. Jules has moved on to her own different lifestyle now. And I'm staying on. So, and I've got another 5 years at least. So there we go.
Well, we'll put the link onto the site anyway, because it's worth checking out. I really like the stuff that you've got there. It was very interesting. Yeah,
it's an eclectic mix. It's different things, very different for people that want to express themselves a bit differently or want something slightly different from mainstream, and also to explore a little bit of spirituality at the same time.
Yes, fantastic. Okay, well, I mean, I think that in terms of teeing up the wild wisdom side of things, is there anything more that you'd like to share on that with us?
I think, following on from our chat the other day, John, I think everything we talked about how it comes about and how we feel about it, I think I've sort of likened the moments of wild wisdom to portals opening, where we catch glimpses and sensations of what's truly possible, kind of like accessing the vast swathes of energy that's available to us. With that comes the vibrational alignment of who we are and who we want to be. And it can be served up in many ways. It can be timely conversations like we've been having, potent dreams, like you were saying, you're starting to dream more, out-of-body experiences, sometimes in the midst of loss, in the midst of love, health crisis, and also healing recovery. So it's there, it's always there. And sometimes those little portals open out for us to just really remind ourselves it's okay, there's something we can work with that's supporting us, and we can learn from it, and we can bring things to the table from it. I think it's really important to remember those things.
Fantastic. Yeah, well, anyway, we're going to be posting Wild Wisdom on Elevated Planet. This is just kind of like to help to tee up the background to this, because I don't think this is going to be the only piece that we're going to be publishing that comes through care of Louise. And in fact, it's great to have Kate's input into that as well, in terms of the images and the likes that support that as well. And I don't doubt we would be delving into Kate's music as well again.
Yes, that would be great. Yeah, I'm sure she'd love that. Yeah. She definitely, and she's really happy with I said, have you got any images and all these images arrived, so they're perfect. Just highlighting the aspects that we've been discussing, really. So yeah, it's very fortunate in that way. So that's great.
Fantastic. Well, I look forward to seeing what ultimately the whole expansive piece of Wild Wisdom turns into, because as you say, once you get your patchwork quilt into the right order and sewn together.
Yeah, that's it. That's my task at the moment, is very much stitching and weaving.
Yes.
Definitely.
Pockets of inspiration all sewn together.
Absolutely, John. Yeah, and thank you for today. Really enjoyed our conversation. It's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Louise. I appreciate you putting aside the time, and I also offer my gratitude to our Elevated Planet community for tuning in. And
absolutely.
Any questions for Louise, any questions for me, then you can come through on ElevatedPlanet.Life contact page. Thank you, Louise, again.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
Everybody. And we'll be back to you again sometime very soon. Thank you.